Yeah.
What can you tell me about the actress who plays Adriana?
Oh, Evie, she's so very talented. I don't think, to my knowledge, she hadn't acted very long before doing this film. So we only had one day with her. So we had one day to get the scene in the car, the scene out when they're kind of drinking and looking out into the at the view, and then the scene after that. We only had a night, so we had to get everything that night. And she came in, and we had like 20-hour day or something that day, which hardly ever happens anymore. When I first started filming, I would have days like that, but we had a long day. And I think we gave ourselves the day off the next day because it was so long to give people a break. But she came in and she rocked it. I think very very quickly she learned that I could give her direction and that she could follow, and I learned that she could take direction, and we just trusted each other. There was also that bond, myself as a Garcia, her last name is Rojas, and I think we bonded on like kind of being light complected uh Latinx individuals. We really bonded on that, and I found that whenever I meet other people like that, they call us güeros or güeros or güeras, like Gueras or Gueraos. There's a bond there. We both know what that's like. Okay, because sometimes we'll have family members that do look very much like your Latino dark complected brown eyes or whatever, and then families will have like a güero like myself, and we could both identify with one another. And I think so could Ernesto and Jesse in some ways. And so we bonded on that immediately. And she, like me, a Latinx person who doesn't speak great Spanish, and so we kind of, I remember like giving her some improv and, hey, try this word in Spanish or whatever. She's like, yeah, I'll do that anyway. But she was so much fun, and so very very what's the word? How do I say it? And there was like a seduction about her, or something. The camera really liked her, and Ernesto and her really had some chemistry.
Yes.
So, mm-hmm.
So it sounds like we may get to see some more from her in the future.
I hope so. Yeah, I reached out to her recently. I was like, "Have you seen the film yet?" She said, "No," because it's screened in Chicago, and I want to send it to her. I want to kind of wait until, I'm usually careful with links, sending them out. I mean, I trust her. I trust everybody, but I just, I also like it when people can just watch it when it's out, like what, like to be pleasantly, hopefully surprised, when they watch it. So yeah, but I reached out to her recently, and I told her I want to work with you again. Everybody mentions you. I hope you know that, so thank you for bringing her up and asking about her. I appreciate that. She will too.
I love the entire cast of this film. I feel like everyone knocks it out of the park, including the supporting cast and those with non-speaking roles. I was going to ask how involved you were in the casting process, but it sounds like, you were talking about auditions earlier. Could you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah. This was one of the first times I'd actually been a little bit more loose about the casting. The producer Lacey had a lot to do with it as well. She was the one reaching out to the agents and doing the communication with everybody, and she's just so sweet and direct, and people really like her, and she was great at dealing with the agencies and whatnot. So she had a lot of input on the actors, and I was worried kind of about sharing that space, because I've kind of prided myself sometimes on being able to find the right people, and just knowing who's right, and she had that same quality. And so it was about 50-50 with she and I, but I knew right away when I met Jesse and when I met Ernesto that I wanted them, and thankfully she was like, yes, definitely. And we always we learned each other and what we were looking for and what we liked going forward. So yeah, it was a shared deal, and I think it was for the best.
The movie has an interesting soundtrack. Can you please tell me about Wonderly, who performed most of the music in the film?
So Wonderly, wow, they were That's another thing. Like I hadn't worked with Wonderly before, and Jim Brumberg and Ben are they're a big part of Portland music, right? Portland, Oregon has a few venues. Mississippi Studios is one of the longest running ones, and Jim Brumberg runs that venue. He runs a few other venues in town. Ben I'll botch his last name, but it's Landsberg, I believe. He's been a popular musician around town. The first band I ever saw was Holcomb Waller in Portland. He played in that band. And I was amazed that this guy was picking up six different instruments, and he could play them all, like just without an issue. And so Jim and Ben, I'd seen them and worked with them in two different facets completely. And so anyway, I was worried when I got the first tracks back, and I don't know why. I just, I don't know what it was, but I trusted them. And when I heard that the tracks, it was just like, wow, that piano song is the one that gets me, that I listen to all the time. Actually, but quite a few of them get me. But that piano song, just that's kind of the sparseness of it, that dun 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 dun. It kind of asks a question, kind of like it reminded me in some ways of like Mystic River, that soundtrack that Clint Eastwood wrote on the piano. That's just a few notes, very sparse, but it comes in at the right times. And yeah, they were two people that I'd known for a long time, and they happened to be very, very talented at writing musical scores and writing original music, because their music's pretty great too. So, yeah.
Speaking of music, you did your own music for the movie The Falls. Can you describe the experience of writing, directing, and composing music for a film? Is it freeing to have that much creative control?
Sometimes not. Sometimes I like to count on someone else to come in and bring in their creative ideas, and sometimes I like to be more in control of that. I think what happened at the very beginning of my career is I had a lot of musician friends, because I came from the music industry, and most all of them had wanted to score a film at some point, and we all, including myself, we all thought we could, easily. And I think it's one of these things you have to learn, and so over time I was able to meet musicians who just could truly just feel it out, and myself, I had written the score for The Falls. Well, it's kind of funny. It sounds like one of those stories people make up, but I'll go into it briefly. But I was going to an LDS church for a little while I was writing The Falls, and I was in a meeting. I think they call it the president's meeting, where after the sacrament, you go off into the kind of a Sunday school type class, and then after that, there's a class for the men, and there's a class for the women. I was in the class for the men, and like something like a little ditty came to me, and I just went to my car and started humming it the way I do when I come up with musical ideas. And then I went home and I played it on the piano, and I was like, oh, this is perfect, and that was the song that I recorded. Just that it's very sparse, very sparse notes. I think my initial response was like, oh, this reminds me of I want to do something like Once Upon a Time in America, or even Eyes Wide Shut, where they have the same theme that goes throughout the film, played in different voicings. And I thought, and this could lower my music costs, but it's also moving at the same time. So that was interesting. And so writing, directing, and producing it, it was cool to be able to do all those things. I think as I do them now out of necessity. I think being a film kind of just a very independent filmmaker, who, when I don't have the money, I'll just go make something like Love and Dangerous Times in my apartment and bring all my friends, and but as I go through my career, I'm finding out, and I think I've always known how important it is to collaborate with people who are better than you at what you do, and to be able to share that space and admit to yourself that you need help, and just get together and make make the best thing possible, and at the end of it, know that it wasn't just you. That even though people want to talk to the directors and the actors, at the end of it, it's like if you bring on the right people, you can create something amazing and also have fun doing. That's another thing about making it. You didn't even ask this, but about making independent films, it's like I know a lot of us, including myself, who just killed ourselves making something just recklessly, underpaying people, or just working 12, 18. I mean, start working over 12 hours a day into the 18, 19, 20. I mean, like I said, we had a day like that on Lose, but if you can make the whole process, any endeavor you do, like, manageable, fun, you don't kill yourself along the way, like afterwards, you're so much more, you feel so much more fulfilled, if you had fun and actually enjoyed yourself. And that's what I'm trying to do as I go forward and make movies. I want it to be fun, and I don't want to be pulling my hair out and not sleeping all night like I have done in several films. And I can't do that anymore. I think I'm getting too old.
Thank you for that. There was a lot of beautiful advice in what you just said.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed that.
Appreciate that.
Do you feel comfortable talking about what it was like going to an LDS church?
Sure.
Like, did you feel undercover or anything?
I did a little bit, and I don't, that's the thing about the Falls movies, is I want to, I know I'm playing in a space that's very, very sacred to many people, and I don't want to, and I don't just say that because I, just to play it safe. I really I grew up religious, and even though my religious views are percolating, they're on hold. I'm processing. I don't want to hurt anybody, and all the LDS people I've met, I've truly loved, and I dated somebody who was LDS for a little while. I let them know I was just sort of, I was testing the waters, which was true. And who am I to say that I wouldn't be whisked away by the words of Joseph Smith? I don't know. And I was there with somebody who was an active Mormon. So that was interesting. What got me is when I think this is the third time I went to a sacrament meeting. I met up with two missionaries, and they were they were the sweetest guys, and they offered to come over and help me move some furniture. And I didn't want them to worry about that. They're like, no, we're missionaries, we'll do it. And I still didn't. I didn't bother them. Don't worry about it. But they were like, no, you can ask us to do things like that. That's part of our job. But anyway, I went to the church and I met with them, and we went in the front of the church, and they went over the Pillar of Light speech, and it was amazing. The way he talked about how Joseph Smith saw the plates, and Moroni, and it was beautiful. He cried at the end of it, and so did his companion, and he believed in it wholeheartedly, and that got me. It touched my soul. It also allowed me to communicate that to the actor that would later play a role like that. But I mean, I can't say I was undercover completely, because there was a part of me that, I want to be whisked away. Like, you're right. I want to be moved. I truly am that type of person. So I don't want to think of it that way. At the same time, I was writing a story. I was collecting information at the same time. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Can you tell me about the documentary that's the third film that you've completed over the past year?
Room to Grow?
Yeah, I believe that's it.
Yeah, Room to Grow is a film I did with Matt Albert, who's a very close friend of mine. And I was a big fan of his, actually. I was a big fan as a musician. I would listen to his music, and a friend of mine told me, like, you gotta put this guy's song in your film, in the trailer, etc. And so I reached out to him. He said I could, and then when it came time to send him a payment for that, I noticed it was a Portland address, and I was like, hey, I live in Portland. So we met up for coffee, and then from there on, he, that day he told me he had an idea. Like, he always wanted to make a documentary about queer youth in America, and I thought it was great, because I'd been making work along the same lines, and so 2 years later, we finished Room to Grow, and it was out with on Reverie, the Reverie Network, and it got a glowing review from the Hollywood Reporter, who've never wanted to. He'd never been interested in anything I created ever, and so I thought that was rad, and I'm still really close to those families, and the movie ended up the human rights organization ended up screening it at their educational conference, and that's just been a very positive thing in my life. I learned a lot about documentary filmmaking during that process. Obviously, even though I studied that in film school, I had some real world type education with that film. But it goes through. I believe there's somebody based in. There's 3 people based in Portland and one in Salt Lake City, who's also an LDS girl, Savannah, and the parallel there was interesting because Savannah was 12 years old when she came out to her church as being bisexual, and then they turned the mic off on her in the church, and so next thing she knew, Alan had given her a call, etc., and she's now become a voice for young people. And so we had Harmony, who transitioned during the making of the documentary, and that was really beautiful. We also, it was also a series too, and so there was a series episodes, and there was the documentary itself, and anyway, it was a beautiful process, and we followed those kids for around 2 years, and kind of watched them grow up, and when we went to Outfest, we saw some larger, well-known magazines wanting to schedule interviews with these people, and they interviewed both me and Harmony for a Latin magazine, and I remember Harmony looking at me like, I didn't really I didn't know that you were Latino, and I thought that was kind of interesting, Anyway.
How is your approach to a documentary different than your approach to a narrative film?
The approach to documentary, I think they're getting more cinematic. I feel like just in general, there's the documentaries I love that I've seen lately, don't have as many talking heads in them. They're more free flowing and beautiful footage, kind of like a Terrence Malick movie or something. I love those types of documentaries. I think what is it that they say? And this isn't true. Like in a narrative film, the director is God, which isn't true. And in a documentary, God is the director, which I like that. But that's kind of, the latter is true. God is sometimes the director in a documentary, if you believe in God or what have you. But I think it the meaning translates. It's like, sometimes you're waiting for stuff to happen, my approach, the approach I like for a documentary, I wish I had 8 years to make Hoop Dreams. I truly do. And maybe that's why I haven't been an impactful documentary filmmaker as much as I would have liked, as I would like to be, is because I haven't put that amount of time. And I think that's why I have so much respect for documentary filmmakers, is because they put so much time and heart, and they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know. They put hope, and that these situations usually get better or progress or change, for the better, hopefully, but I like the Werner Herzog approach. He goes in, assesses, asks questions, and then tells the story. He moves, he gets out of there, he goes to Antarctica, gets the hell out of Antarctica. I don't know, I love that. Go in there, tell the story, and get out, and tell another story. And I think I started making movies when I was 30 years old, and I'm now 41, and I feel like I started late, and I feel like I've been making up for lost time, and that's been sort of one of the driving forces behind me making movies as often as I try to, is because I wish I'd gotten into this in my 20s. I wish I had film classes in middle school like some kids do now. And I auditioned for a film recently for some college students, and the direction I got was impeccable, was perfect. I was like, wow, remember she gave me directions, and I was like, wow, this is better than notes I could give somebody, at some point, and I was like, there's some amazing media that's going to be coming out in the next few years, and beyond, because these kids are doing it way early. The editors coming out of middle school, high school, they're fast and they're good, and so it's not a scary thing, it's like, that's not like it's threatening, but it's, it still takes life experience, or recklessness or naiveness to make, sometimes, to the like naiveness of what all is entailed into making a film, to make something happen. But it's like I said, there's just going to be a lot of incredible films coming out in the years to come. But it does take life experience, I feel.
Do you have any current or upcoming projects that you would like to plug or talk about?
Well, I'm working on Past the Guard, which I talked about. The one project I'm working on right now that I hope keeps progressing forward is, I'm a big MMA fan. I'm a big UFC fan. I want to get these two ideas off my off my heart and off my chest, and then and give them to the world. But Past the Guard, of course, the LGBT film, that's also MMA film, mostly an MMA film that's told through Latino culture. So our leads are Latino. So I want to make Past the Guard, and we've been working on that for a while now, and I'm teaming up with the same distributor and producer, Mike Repsch, of Dark Star Pictures, who put out Love and Dangerous Times and Lose. So, and then there's another film that's also an MMA film, and it's called Till the Wheels Come Off, and that is local Houston fighter, Lauren Murphy, and she's a well-known MMA fighter. I think she's number 3 in her division right now, and she grew up in Alaska, and she fell into MMA fighting on accident. She took her son into an MMA class to give him something to do, and she ended up taking a class too. And she had all this natural brute strength from fighting forest fires. And at some point, she tried to fight, and then she won. She kept winning, And I think this film is inspiring because it reminds me of like me getting into filmmaking in my late 20s, early 30s, like, trying to find, put my foot in something that I truly enjoyed, and that I felt like I could be good at, and I didn't know, I'm becoming a better filmmaker, but I was very fulfilled when I started making films, right? And I think Lauren found that with fighting, and so I want to tell her story, and telling a fight story with a backdrop of Alaska, like a Rocky in Alaska, female Rocky in Alaska. I think that sounds like it's going to be a blast, Yeah.
That sounds beautiful. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah. And I have another one. I want to be hush hush about it right now, but it takes place it's an Austin series, and I'll tell you about it next time we chat.
Okay, I would love that. Thank you so much for your time and for allowing me to interview you. This has been a blast.
Yeah.
And I want to congratulate you on making such a beautiful film.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking such great questions, for being so nice. I appreciate you. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. You let me just talk and talk and talk, and I guess I wanted to do that because I kept talking. So I got a lot to say. So about these films and about the films I haven't made yet. So I appreciate you giving me that space to do this. So thank you.
It was my pleasure. Have a good night.
You too, man. All right.